catch me howling at the moon. Won't stop fighting to the very end. Many men try to reach it, many men have failed. Well, if you wanna get to heaven, you gotta raise a little hell. And I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down. Will you find me? Hope you find me. I'll be back home soon. When the sun rises, when the sun
caught a fucking marlin. Oh, right. We celebrate with pyrotechnics. Welcome to the Cabo Fishing Podcast, brought to you by Rancho del Pescador, Red Rum Sport Fishing, Marvita, and Proyecta Pupila.
Hello, my name is Omar Ruiz, Captain of Oso Rojo 46, Beltran. I love sport fishing. I started when I was 16 years old. I got an invitation from my dad to cover a shift for the other captain. After 6 months, I start be captain on my own boat. And then a scooter stop. The first boat, the captain is, the name is Frigate. Next is Rocket 2. And the other one is Red Rum. It's Real Rum, Red Rum, Nueva Red Rum, and now it's Oso Rojo. Now I have 27 years fishing. 21 Red Rum sport fishing. Have been in the fourth owner, Tomas, Vincent, John, and Toby. What I love for sport fishing is every day is different. And I love big catch, big fish. When Red Rum sport fishing, is already won twice 2 tournaments. Tuna tournament 2008, Tuna tournament 2006. Also remember, when I start Red Rum sport fishing, I start my life. I start to build my house, my family, my sons, my 3 sons. I'm very happy. I like fishing for, I like the fish, I like the people happy is pictures, and I love the fishing. For fishing is all the time it changes. Never is the same day. It's got a different fish. Is the fighter different? All the fishes sometimes is more strong, more different jump. I like this. Remember when you come to fish and enjoy, put the music, you're drinking. We'll do our best to catch the fish for you.
Towards Sorabo Island, doing like bottom attacks, right? Like having, one or two orcas chasing, like it's a dolphin this way, leading it, and dolphin are exceptionally intelligent too. Like, yes, like that's a worthy opponent, and it's just like, whoop, and like skyrockets it, and then it's like, they know that they need to like, tail whip. They, it's just like, we're gonna hit you with our nose, we're gonna guide you, it's just wild. It's absolutely wild how intelligent they are. But we are guests. Yeah. like that when Chewy and I, were on Oso Blanco, and I was just trying to catch some footage. We were in pretty good distance, safe, and like you realize, like when that huge erect dorsal comes up, you're like, oh, like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. And you realize like how like we were in a 33-foot, blackfin, our Oso Blanco, and when that like dorsal fin comes up, and it's like not like to the side of the gun. I mean like.
Oh yeah, the alpha males.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, you're bigger than me. Yeah. You're bigger than my boat, and you feel so insignificant. You feel so small, and then he just like casually, he's like, gives you that side eye. You're like, oh, like I'm in your world. I'm a guest. Yeah. You're like, make sure, like, let me get my shoes off in your house.
Yeah. I just can't get over.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, I just can't get over all the different wildlife you guys have here in the ocean. It's truly incredible.
Oh well, I mean, so today we've seen probably 4 or 5 humpbacks. Yeah. Right? Did you see that baby breach?
Yes.
That was pretty cool. We've seen porpoise, sea turtle. I don't know if you saw the sea lions as we were exiting.
No, I was too busy taking photos of the scenery.
Oh well.
Yeah.
You'll absolutely get another chance to see a sea lion. That's guaranteed.
Yeah.
But we'll see more like those porpoise we just saw. Those are like black, so they don't roll in a big pod. They work in like smaller pods. They're bigger. They're kind of like a little more marauding. We'll see probably more porpoise. Hopefully we see like white bellies, and they're smaller, subspecies, and super acrobatic. Also know like they get called spinners too, and they jump and oscillate. They're wild to watch too, because like they communicate through acrobatics. Like they mark the leading edge and the forward line of advance of like the bait, by doing acrobatics. And then they'll like pop up, and they do this like really kind of cool, like with their tail, like treading water, and they both move forward, so their body's like almost erect, walking through the water so that they can see. And then they mark, and then they like do like tail slaps, again to communicate. Okay, we're over here. Easier targetry here. It's just wild to like. We get so arrogant as humans, thinking that we have, because we have all these utensils, and when opposable comes, like we're like superior, right? And then you get out here and you realize like
We're in their element now.
we are guests.
Yeah.
And like they're big, they're smart. I love wildlife. Absolutely love wildlife. Growing up, in northern BC, we got to see deer, elk, moose. Obviously I'm a big bear fan.
Yeah.
And we had the Kermode, now spirit bear. The black bear, the brown, and I love all that stuff. It's always exciting to see it, and it never impresses me more than to be out on the water and see something that is just alien, like a squid, an octopus, like just defies logic.
Well, that's the beauty. You never know what you're going to see when you're out here.
No. And no 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
No 2 days are the same. But one of the things about here, and and hopefully we get to experience it, is growing up there. You're like, okay, we have this kind of salmon, dolly bark, the ocean going, rainbows that return, becoming steelhead, and pink salmon, sockeye salmon, Chinook salmon, coho salmon, dog salmon, like you have all these salmon. But here it's just so wild because you have like all these different species, and there's plentiful, and they're wild. They're the neatest fish. It's the Dorado. And, when you see a Dorado streaming through the water and it's like silver with these bright fluorescent blue flashes, it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
And then you catch him and he gets all worked up and you get him on the boat and he's not silver and blue anymore, he's yellow and green. Like, completely different color set.
Yeah.
And then you get him and you on the boat, 10 minutes later he's silver and blue again. Completely excited. And they're a wild species. They grow 12 to 18 inches a month. So you'll catch this big Dorado and you're like, oh man, this thing must be ancient, like a dinosaur. That's probably a year old. They consume so much. They grow so fast. They go from sexual maturity in about 8 to 12 months. So they're regenerating super fast. Unlike the billfish here, where they don't get to sexual maturity to 3 to 5 years. And that's one of the reasons why this fishery, we're trying to be very cognizant of how we handle billfish, because they'll get up to size pretty quickly, but not reach sexual maturity yet. So when these guys are killing these fish,
You don't know.
You don't know until after it's dead.
Yeah.
Striped marlin used to get up to 500 pounds. Now if someone catches, there was a little girl, the picture came out a couple of weeks ago, a little girl in Australia, and she had a 200 and something, 225 or something, and now it's and it was a monster. I'm holy crap! I forgot that stripes can get that big, but here, just due to poor management, now it's okay. Now everyone's kind of getting invested, and we're trying to help educate people. Please don't, let's catch it, give you that Hemingway moment, get you that photo. Let's detackle it and let's return it to the water, as we took it. In a lot of cases, people leave tackle in them, and that kind of bums me out. So, in tournament rules, a fish is considered captured or caught if a crew member gets his hand on the leader.
Okay.
Right? So the leader in a tournament is, depending on the tournament, but usually about, between 15 and 20 feet, which is a lot of room, right?
Yeah.
You get the leader, and then just doing a little wrap and then popping it. That leaves the tackle in the fish. And so like when we catch one, we like to make sure like not only is our tackle out, but if there's anybody else's, we don't want like a bunch of Dennis Rodman swimming around. I recently had a hook in my face, and man, I didn't enjoy it. I was happy to go get it removed.
Well, you healed up pretty nice.
Yeah, oh man. I still have a little tender on the inside. Then it's in my 40s, so it took me that long to teach myself not to pick my nose.
Yeah. Well, it's so nice to hear that you guys are trying to preserve this species so that anglers or guests like myself can come down year after year or generation after generation.
Well, that's it, right? Generations. We were talking earlier with Glenn. I grew up fishing as a little kid. And I don't know what it is about like capturing fish. The endorphins it releases. I don't know. It's unlike any other human activity, and it's so primal. It's so romantic. It's like
The thrill of the chase.
yeah, it's so cool. And I want my kids to do that.
Yeah.
And now, like, as my kids are getting older, like, and I want their kids to do it. And, like,
Absolutely.
like the way my dad introduced me to it, I was, fortunate, having a single dad that a lot of other people in the neighborhood and the community stood beside him and locked arms in the rearing. I mean, I was a little rambunctious, but like, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Carlos Stella, my uncle Carlo, and like him taking me fishing. My uncle Frank Cutler, him taking me fishing. My dad didn't have. We had canoes, but Uncle Frank had a jet boat. And he'd take me up the Cayman River, which is some of the best fishing in the world. And some of like two of the largest Chinooks ever caught freshwater. And like that experience, like being able to pass that and pay that forward. I'm excited to do it with my grandkids. Like my good friend Brad Strittmatter, and brought his boys down here, and being able to get Joe, Sam, and Davis on fish. This imprint, this memory, like these endorphins. It's unlike anything else that you can experience. And I don't know, like when God made us, He's like, I'm gonna make this cool.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing, that adds appreciation. Like, and that's, not to get political or whatever, but so many people lose the conservation behind hunting and fishing. Like, they don't realize that the vast majority of people hunting and fishing aren't doing it out of bloodlust. Like, doing it out of absolute appreciation. Like,
We're the biggest conservationists out there for
Absolutely.
whether it be fishing, hunting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the Cabo Fishing Podcast, brought to you by Rancho del Pescador, Red Rum Sport Fishing, Marvita, and Proyecta Pupila. Welcome back to the Cabo Fishing Podcast. As always, I'm the guy kind of talking, Toby. But today I'm with one of my BC brethren, British Columbia brethren, and we are at Taba BBQ, which is not fish related, but for me and for a lot of other people, this is a sanctuary and a church of meat. Not to be confused with Meat Church in Texas, but a church of meat, because Mildred back here.
It wouldn't be a bad comparison, though.
No, it's a complimentary comparison.
It would be.
Complimentary.
I would appreciate
comparison.
that kind of compliment.
Yeah. But here we are, my man. Talk to us, introduce yourself, and tell us about why I always come here and spend all my money.
Well, I'm hoping it's because you love the food, and I think it's because you love the people. I think it's because you love the place. My name's Chris Kabush.
That's Kabush.
Kabush,
Like kaboom,
Correct.
but kabush.
more or less, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an 8-year resident of Los Cabos. I've been down here since 2016. I'm a chef by trade, and I moved down here to open a restaurant for another BC family. Did that, and then kind of ventured out on my own, doing some independent chefing. Through COVID, that led to a lot of downtime, being very bored. So I started cooking barbecue. Started slanging it literally out of my front yard. Built a little pit out of cinder blocks. Used the wood for the tree that fell down in my yard because it was what was available. And started slanging some briskets and ribs out of a tent in front of my garage during the middle of COVID. So that led to doing some markets, some of the organic markets and things like that, doing some deliveries. Word started to spread. People started to like the barbecue. We found out that there's a lot of Texans that were staying here through COVID. And then that led to our previous location, which is where we met, down on the marina. And then, 2.5 years later, here we are with a full-blown restaurant.
Yeah, almost 3, right?
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, our first day of service was Thanksgiving 2020.
Yeah. Now, so one of the reasons why you and I became friends, not just because I like the food, I like, the people, and I like, the ambiance.
Those are all bonuses.
No, I have an affinity for people that persevere, and necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
And anytime that you can take something and be like, okay, here's our situation, it's not pristine, I can't go home, we're kind of locked down here, stuck in.
Yeah.
You said it politely where you're like, there's a lot of Texans that are living here during it's because they had to, they couldn't leave, right?
Yeah.
They're like, the border was closed, and same for you, couldn't go back to Canada.
It was a weird situation.
Yeah.
We decided to stay here, and there was a lot of, for everybody it was a real sort of up in the air kind of situation. But we decided to stick it out because, we have our home here, we'd built our lives here, and it was funny. The rules were very fuzzy and ever changing, it seemed, during the beginning of COVID. And I just figured, all the restaurants are closed, all the hotels are closed, all the bars are closed. Nobody's going to have anywhere to do anything except for home. And I'm not one to not go against the grain, so I was just like, let's see if anybody tells me to stop. And nobody did.
Asking for forgiveness sometimes is, especially with bureaucroess,
Yes.
is a lot easier than
One of my favorite phrases.
asking
One
for
of my favorite
permission.
phrases, yes.
But one of the things we talked about, the first location, I'd be coming in on the boats, and I'd be going by, and smoke would be rolling,
Yeah.
and I would just be transported home.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about smoke of different types, of all
Sure.
whether you're burning spruce or hemlock up north, and you're
Sure.
getting that my Christmas tree's on fire in the living room smell, which is, you never want to smell that because it's bad. But the old fire, I was raised with wood stove heat for many years.
Sure.
And so I love the smell of smoke, and it initiates and it brings in positive memories.
Yeah.
Some negative memories from another part of my life and career, but for the most part, I loved it. When I could smell that barbecue,
Yeah.
when I could smell that mesquite and that oak burning, I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
And then it was right here, big neon sign, literally a neon sign hanging over
Yeah.
fishing boats that
Yeah.
said BBQ.
Yeah, we figured, if they can see it from the mountains in Pedregal, then it's big enough.
Yeah.
There's certainly something very nostalgic about the aromas of smoke. Whether it's, like you said, whether you're from the north, the south, the east, or the west, there's always a campfire or barbecue or grilling or something. There's always something very, very recognizable about the smell of smoke. And when that thing is full of briskets and ribs, the smell of the Maillard effect and the caramelization of those meats with that smoke come together. It's just, we've had people that have literally followed their nose here.
Oh, yeah.
Never heard of us, didn't know we were here, didn't find us on Facebook or Instagram or Google or anything like that. Literally just were a few blocks up the street and said, I smell barbecue, and followed their nose in our front door. On many of occasions.
I'm I can see my spot
Yeah.
from right here.
Yeah.
I'm not that far away, but I'm the wind coming off the water pushes it
Yeah.
up the hill, and I'll sit on my balcony and be like,
Just enjoy it.
you
Just
know,
take it in.
and then it's all right, let me go get dinner.
Yeah, I mean, that's what better marketing is there, right?
No, I mean, like,
not everybody recognizes it quite as well as maybe
Yeah.
you and I do, but it works.
no, if there's a way like I could like the air, you know, I'd just be like, how do I like, love,
Yeah.
you know, retweet,
Sure.
you know, like what I'm taking in.
One day.
I absolutely would.
One day we'll have that, yeah, one of these days.
Elon's
We're
probably
getting there,
working
yeah.
on there, right?
They'll have goggles and something for like a sniffer that you can like double tap. I don't
But
know.
so let's talk about meat,
Sure.
because you know, like in fishing, like that's, you know, I'm kind of in the meat business, right?
Sure,
like
yeah.
I'm trying to get meat, you know, I'm trying to eat. We are 1,000 miles away from civilization.
Just about.
And well, I have like almost hit some goats and maybe a really angry donkey one time. I've not seen a lot of cattle here.
There's not.
Right? And I haven't seen an awful lot of pigs.
Yeah.
So like, we're talking high quality meat that's having to be brought here. That's a
Yeah.
logistical challenge.
It can be. That's usually the first question people have when they ask about the business and what it's like running a barbecue joint down here. We're lucky we're a small town in Cabo. I mean, as you know, I think our population is 420,000 between here and San Jose full time. So we are a small town, but being such a destination worldwide, there are a lot of suppliers here that bring excellent quality meats from the States, from Canada, even from as far as Australia and New Zealand. So our beef comes from one of two suppliers that we get, and it's just that. It's either Canadian Alberta beef.
Are you saying we're eating Alberta beef?
Sometimes we are, yeah. Or we're using
Alberta
prime briskets
beef.
from that would probably come out of Texas.
I feel like there should be a Letterkenny like reference right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, a little S&P.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
both down the hatch.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
always Alberta beef. Maybe some
Yeah.
Montreal steak seasoning, but
well,
yeah.
depends
but,
on how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, but I'm
see,
just
this
saying.
is where
like,
the
Alberta,
Texas side stays.
Yeah, but Alberta beef,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good quality beef.
I'm like probably gonna
Consistent.
like my house will get struck by lightning in Texas right now for saying that. But
Wow.
but Alberta beef, high quality.
It's very high quality.
Yeah.
Very high quality, well priced, consistent is one of the biggest things. It's hard, really. One of the things is we could use beef from Sonora here. There's a big ranch, well, not a big ranch. It's a big-ish ranch from Mexico that raises excellent cattle for excellent beef, but the consistency is challenging. They just don't have the volume that they have out of the States and Canada. So we aim to use American or Canadian beef as much as we possibly can. We'll dabble here and there in some Wagyu and some Mexican beef, maybe some Argentinian beef for different dinners and events and things like that. But overall, we're using American or Canadian beef. Pork is all coming out of the States. We use all 100% pork product from the States. Chickens come from here. There's tons of chickens here. And with the volume of business that we have here in Los Cabos, there are excellent suppliers that have daily deliveries and high rotation. So quality really isn't that big of a challenge for us, actually. It's which we're blessed with, and I'm very grateful for. And it works out pretty good, you know. We try to keep the rotation and just keep on moving that meat and keeping people happy.
That's one of the things I really love about here is, you know, agriculture right up the coast. You know, some of your peers, you know, like Rob Kelly, you know, over at Baja, you know, Pete over at Chubby and Motherflower. You know, we in our conversations with them, you know, like it always comes back to like how cool it is that some of these things are nearby.
Oh yeah.
And like a lot of people don't realize that there's stuff like meat, you know, like you got to get it here. But like all the other things, it's really neat how that stuff is like nearby and good quality, unbelievably good quality.
I've never, living in BC in Vancouver for my whole life, we have great farms and great agriculture nearby, but it's very seasonal, obviously. Here, the seasons are much more forgiving, much broader. So fruits and vegetables, all the produce, herbs, lettuces, things like that, come year round with excellent quality. And they're always available. There are some things that tend to be a bit seasonal, but more or less you can get anything you want of excellent quality here all year long, which is awesome. And it makes for a big difference in final product and final dining experience. So it's it's good. We're in a good spot as far as produce goes, for sure.
And the other neat thing about the contrast between barbecue and fishing is this is a wonderful treat.
Yeah.
Like at home, it's the opposite, right? So like, the seafood is a wonderful treat.
Sure.
But here, we're just so blessed with this abundance of just the best seafood in the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're talking crustaceans or you're talking fish.
Yep.
Like we have it.
It's
like
in abundance.
And
Yep.
this becomes like this wonderful treat, right? This this moment.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how and why you set up the restaurant the way you did, because you set it up like a porch. You set it up like, hey, this is how you're actually enjoy it. Half
Sure.
outdoors with a little bit of shelter,
Yep.
and AC inside, cool little bar. You have the wood surrounding folks,
Yep.
so like everyone, like you're part of it. When you come in here, it's just like you're on someone's outdoor kitchen,
Yeah.
and you're part of the process. The wood is right here, Mildred's right here,
Yeah.
Chewy's right there getting after it. Look
Yeah.
at that guy. Like
It was in part by design and in part by kind of necessity of what we found as far as real estate goes. My original vision the vision for what Taba BBQ was going to be from the beginning was very evolutionary. It continued to change because I started by just slapping together some bricks and putting some meat in it and seeing if anybody came down the road. I mean, there was a bit more to it than that, but more or less it was just slanging barbecue to whoever wanted to come by the house. And then the previous location, that kind of just by, through the markets that we were doing on the weekends, Justin, who owned the Mercado down there, invited us to open a counter, which was, you remember, it was no bigger than this. It was tiny.
It was.
And it was available. The rent made sense, and it was a bit of a, a bit of a kind of step for me, a bit of a leap into the dark. But we just signed the paper and just went for it. And then that kind of, I don't know. I try to be very natural in the way that I come up with ideas. And that space just sort of made sense to have, this corrugated metal, which we had on the bottom, and it had some exposed lighting and some exposed wood, and it was very industrial, which kind of also sits well with the barbecue theme.
Yeah.
Right? Barbecue is very industrial seeming. It's very kind of raw and natural. Lots of metal, lots of ash, lots of burnt, right?
Yeah.
And then we came across this space when we decided to move out of there and move down here. We actually just happened to be walking down the street and came across this space. And it was previously a restaurant, and it was a bit different in the decor, but the bones were here. We built this from scratch. We built the pit from scratch. But the whole facade and kind of the flooring and this pergola were here. So we kind of just sort of took what was existing and turned it into what I felt was kind of a good barbecue thing. And more than anything, I just wanted to be comfortable and for people to come in and just feel chill here, come in and just hang out, eat some good barbecue, watch a game, play some darts, play some cards, chat with the guys, see the meat. And it was that was another piece that was very important.
Crucial.
Was having this very visible because of the smell and seeing the meat come in and out of the barbecue, out of the pit. It's something that a lot of joints in Texas, they have their pits out in the back, or they have them, in kind of a shed or something like that, where as a diner, you don't really get to see and appreciate how primal it is, right? Like we're talking like meat, salt, and smoke, and fire. Like it's really, really basic. There's not a lot to it. So
no, like when I travel for barbecue,
Yeah.
which anyone that knows me knows, like I've done a little bit
Right.
of that. If I can't see that, it's not real.
Yeah.
There's some really cool places that have little outlets.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say their names, but like in Austin, Texas, it might be a color, but they have like really cool outlet locations
where they're bringing meat
where they're
from
bringing from the. But I want to go to the original.
Of course.
I want to go to the original because like
experience.
That's the experience. I want to smell the fire. I want to feel its heat.
Yeah.
I want to see the soot on the walls.
We went on a trip to Nashville, Tennessee last year, and there's a really great barbecue joint there that we went to, and they use China box style. So these huge cases, similar like what Snow's does, right? So they've got their wood fire burn over here, and they're moving ash from the wood fire to the bottoms of things. And it's open. It's not exactly open. It's kind of like this. So I was like, hey, can I just wander back in there? Like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I'm in there, opened up the things, and it really made that experience all that much more special because you get to go in and see kind of what's going on. You know, it brings out the inner child on like those field trips, going to whatever factory, and you get to kind of poke around in the stuff that you've never seen before, right? So, and we have loads of people that come in, and in fact, there's one, these brothers that came in with their family, and they're from, I want to say like Chicago or maybe Michigan or something like that. But anyways, and we keep in touch via Instagram, and because they're really into doing barbecue, and they wanted to build their own pit, and one of the brothers was a welder, and so he. I said, look, come check it out, and I explained to them kind of the science and the thermodynamics and the aerodynamics of the whole inside of the pit, and why I think that this one works really well, and blah blah blah. And we keep in touch. They'll message me every now and again and say, hey, what about this? You know, what do you think about? Should we put these seals around the door, or do you think we should have this? And I'll give them, because you know this is the second one that we've built, and this one is like a Ferrari. Like this thing really performs.
And her name is?
You know, we actually haven't gotten to the point where we've named her yet. The previous one was called Brad the Smoke Pit. My fiance came up with that name. She came up with it, and it stuck, and so we stayed with it. Yeah. This one has never actually been named. We just call it the Pit, which is maybe a little uninspiring or a little uncreative, but I tell you, man, she hums. Those 6 thermometers will be almost at exact same temperature all the time.
That's good.
And she rips. And it was made by a local guy. His name's Mauricio, and he's a metal worker. He's done a bunch of metal work here. And I just went to him and said, he's done grills and stuff like that for a lot of chefs nearby. He built a pizza oven for Cesar Pita at Lumbre. He's done all kinds of stuff. And I just went to him, I said, look, this is what I want to do. Can you do it? And he's like, yeah, of course. Let's figure it out. And so looking at videos, looking at photos, looking at the Franklin Barbecue Cookbook, which has a very sort of rudimentary diagram of more or less how it should work. We figured out how to put it together, and it was literally like screenshots of videos in YouTube videos or on Instagram videos that, like, because a lot of these videos the guys won't show you real, like they'll kind of skim past little details. For example, the placement of the exhaust duct, or the placement of the in duct from the firebox into the pit. One client came into the old location who had done some competition barbecue, and he's from Texas. He was from, I think he was from Dallas, Fort Worth. And you know, I was showing him the pit and everything. He's like, oh yeah, this is working pretty good. But I was telling him that I was having a really hard time maintaining temperature. And he's like, well, just buy a few, you know, 3mm or 4mm sheets of metal that you can lay across the bottom, the belly of the pit. Because what'll happen is then that temperature and that smoke that's barreling through will get disrupted by these panels. And we did that on this one, as well as a number of other changes. But it, you know, little things like that, right? So kind of learn as you go. I mean, that's how I've pretty much lived my whole life and career, is figure it out as I go and just keep on learning.
You know, you said something earlier, you know, about like, you know, taking that step off into the deep, right? And I think that's, you know, so many people are like scared to do things.
Sure.
And, you know, I always think about, you know, what's the difference between swimming in shallow water and swimming in deep water? Nothing.
Sharks.
Sometimes, yeah. But no, like the reality is there's no difference in swimming in shallow water versus deep water. Swimming is swimming.
Yep.
It's your mind, right? And it's your willingness to try and to persevere. I
don't have a lot of quit in me.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I really stick with stuff, and I mean, my background, I've been 20-something years in the culinary industry, from fine dining to corporate level chef jobs and everything in between. So that really lent a lot to operating a restaurant business. But learning barbecue was something I just kind of had to figure out as I went. Yeah. Not had to, I wanted to. Yeah. It was always interesting to me how simple and, again, primal it is, right? You can just take thyme, fire, wood, fire, smoke, good meat and seasoning, and turn it into something. You can take this hunk of like shoe leather and turn it into what, you know, we know as the most amazing barbecue and brisket. It's magic.
So a lot of people, you know, they're going to be watching this and they're going to be like, this doesn't make any sense, and you know, because, you know, it's not fishing. But this is what you just said. What you just said is the actual like glue to why we're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. It wasn't too recently in this very location of Los Cabos that there wasn't a ton of refrigeration.
Yeah.
And the singular curing of meats
Yep.
was smoke.
Yep.
Right? Just
Yeah.
like up
A lot of
north,
people
like
still do it, as you know.
we smoke salmon, right?
Yep. Yep.
You know, like, you know, we
I would say that's where my original interest comes from.
Yeah.
So we grew up. I mean, we had a 9-foot chest freezer full of sockeye salmon fillets at all times throughout the year. But that was back then when there were still fish, and we still to this day smoke salmon once or twice a year. I usually bring from Canada to here 15 or 20 pounds of smoked salmon in vacuum pack with me. But that was my first interest in smoking meats. Now, quick sidebar. We are about to start serving some seafood here.
Ooh.
Weekends, we're going to start having a couple of Mariscos options. Chocolata clams on the fire or raw. We're going to start doing a whole head-on shrimp surroundado and some kind of fish. Whether it's a whole fish fried or grilled right over the flames, or we're not sure yet, but something. So we're going to start having some seafood items on the weekends.
No, I mean, it's, I think, a natural evolution.
Yeah,
And I
grilled
think
oysters,
yeah. Oh,
right?
forget
Like grilled
about
oysters right in the flames in
Yeah.
the firebox. Like, come on.
No, like I think it's a natural progression, and you know, we talked about primal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, I would say my first cooking class
Yeah.
was probably on the banks of the Skeena River.
Sure. Yeah. I believe it.
With fire.
Yeah.
You know, and one, I was excited to make fire because I was a little boy, and you
Sure.
know, like, who doesn't like to make a fire?
Yeah.
And you know, then it's like, okay, we're gonna apply like this fishing and this fire. We're gonna put it together. And
yeah.
that was probably my first real like
Yeah,
cooking
man.
class.
I mean, there's tons of them that I can relate back to living back home, and we spend a load of time on the coast, up in the Sunshine Coast, and fishing and prawning. You know, there's nothing
Yeah.
like taking a basket of fresh sprout prawns out, ripping off the head, sucking the head out, and just eating that succulent sweet meat. It's amazing, you know. I remember the first time I ever tried sashimi or any kind of a sushi. I think I was 7, and we were fishing on the Stein River, which is just north of where the Thompson separates from the Fraser. So it's on the Fraser, and we used to go and fish for springs. We used to fish for whatever, you know, steelhead, whatever there was. And I remember it was spring season. We caught a big spring. This would have been like 1980 something, 88, and my uncle brings it back to the camper, fillets it, pins it, slices out a slice, hands me a little dish of soy sauce, and says, "Try this." And this was not when sushi was, you know,
Right, yeah.
sushi wasn't a big thing back then. We didn't, you know, there weren't sushi places in every corner. And he's like, "Here, try this." And I remember eating it and going like, "Ugh," but really underneath being like, "That's really good." You know what I mean?
It captures your attention.
Oh yeah. But being an 8-year-old, I was like, "You're making me eat raw fish. This is
Yeah.
weird." But
Right.
it was. But I still have that flavor memory, exactly in my mouth.
And
in
you've
my brain.
searched for it, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
Like, that's the key, I think, is like when we get something that, you know, takes us there, then we like spend the rest of our
Yeah.
lives searching to like reclaim that one moment,
man.
that one like
Yeah.
whatever it hit that left or right taste
Yeah.
bud just the right way. We're like, I'm in search.
It's one of the best things here, you know, like if you're going like on one of your boats, right? Going from the harbor out to wherever you're going to be fishing, and you just drag a line as you're cruising out there, and you happen to catch a little whatever, a little Sierra or a little Cabrilla or whatever it might be. And, you know, it's a little one, so you're like, "Oh, let's just make some ceviche right here, right now." There's nothing like it. It's amazing.
I'm not saying that happens on a regular basis,
Well,
but it does.
well, I mean,
Every time we can.
Sure.
Every time we can
Yeah.
make something fresh, we do. Yeah.
That's the best. There's
It's
nothing
the
like
best.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's primal, and it just has this sort of, I don't know, there's something about it that just has I'm very much a lover of simple but delicious things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like overcomplicating flavors. I don't like overcomplicating processes and things like that. Even though my background comes from, you know, fine dining, French and European and kind of training. Really, what I prefer and what I enjoy more is things that are more plain, not plain,
No.
more simple. Because something that's simple and doesn't have a lot applied to it is harder to hide quality.
So I will take, you know, I think plain isn't the right word.
It's not.
But I would say realistic.
Sure.
Because, you know, at the root of what food is, it's sustenance, right?
Yep.
And I was having this conversation, with Izzy next door, and like there's no more subtle way or modest way to say I love you than putting food in front of somebody, right?
Food is definitely my love language.
Yeah, and so it's
Absolutely.
like, like when I cook for my family, that's how I feel. Like this is me telling, my kids, my wife, like I love you.
Yeah.
And when you get overcomplicated, it's not passion, and it's for me.
Yeah.
Because like you're almost perverting the basic of what you're doing.
Sure.
It's like I'm just trying to feed you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you I care about you. I love you. I want the best for your life. I want the best for your family.
Yeah.
I want the best for your dog. Like
It's
I want the best for
one
you.
of those basic things of any animal existence is ensuring that your kin and anything that's important to you lives. You feed them.
And I think it's realistic, to have it like, here, let me just do this thing for you.
Yeah.
And because when I overcomplicate it, I'm clouding it. I'm taking away from like that very basic primal, like, hey man, I care about you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, it's one of the fun things about barbecue is there's really not a lot of things that you can hide behind.
Right.
If you over season, if you under season, if you overcook, undercook, too much smoke, too little smoke, dirty smoke, too much clean smoke, whatever it might be, you can't hide. Like it's just a bad brisket's a bad brisket, and a good brisket will always make you forget about that bad one you cooked.
Yeah. The other thing about barbecue is time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Like there's this like misconception that you're just gonna throw something on a hot grill and it's gonna turn out like a masterpiece.
No.
They don't understand the temperature regulation, which takes time to get it there.
Yeah.
And then the preparation, as simple and basic as seasoning is, it's preparation. It takes time, and then to put it on on the smoke and let it do its work.
Yeah.
That's a patient game.
Barbecue takes an enormous amount of care.
Yeah.
An enormous amount of care and attention. And it really, really shows. Like when I first started doing it out of the house, it was just me, my fiance, who wasn't doing any of the cooking, but she was helping me, deal with a lot of the service and a lot of the order taking and things like that. My son was around for some of it before he went back to Canada. We were lucky he got stuck here during COVID. But it really, and I wasn't cooking in a proper pit. I was cooking in a real hole-filled, cracked piece of shit. and it, but I had, so tending that fire, like I would see fluctuations of temperature, which is, for those who don't know, is hugely important in barbecue, is to maintain a constant temperature and not to fluctuate too much, because that's how you get dried out, that's how you get burnt outsides, and there's a million things to it. But it was for 24 to 36 hours, depending if I was cooking for 2 days or not. It would take literal constant attention to the fire, as long as there was meat in the cooker. Constant. Every few minutes you need to check, because fire doesn't just, there was no gas involved. It was just wood and heat.
And it was wood from a tree.
And it was wood from a tree that fell down in my yard. Some of it was, not all of it.
Yeah.
I think we're far enough in the future that nobody's going to care anymore. But there was a tabachine. That's where actually the name of the business came from. It was a tabachine tree, a very large tabachine tree that fell down. So
that's the genesis.
That's the genesis. Yeah, and
Tabachine.
I was like, tabachine's
I didn't know
cool.
that. I just learned that.
Yeah.
I just learned something.
I was like, tabachine's a cool word. I could call a business that, but that sounds long. Tabachine. Taba. That's it. Business called Taba. And it's stuck.
S.A. to CB.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we have a lot of Filipino customers that come in here on their travels, just by chance, and I think it's because in Tagalog the word taba means fat, like fat on a piece of meat, or you could say you have a lot of fat on you, like on your butt. Like
hey, well, I can hear what you're saying, man.
Yeah. So but that wasn't actually the origin of it. That's how the name came about. It just kind of worked. We just figured, hey, Taba, easy to say. Nobody else is going to have that name. Perfect.
That's interesting about the other part of the word, because
I didn't even realize
that
until
just
later.
worked out, like
Yep.
Kismet, right?
Yep.
And just like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell everybody how they can find you, since they're
Sure.
watching this because they're coming to Cabo to go fishing, with some awesome people.
Yep.
And now they're, want to eat with some awesome people.
Absolutely,
Like,
yeah.
How do they
Come on
find
in.
you?
Find us online, www.tababbq.com, tababbq.com or tababbq.com. You can find us on Instagram, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, at Taba BBQ, TABA BBQ again. Give us a call at 123-9025, 624-123-9025. Reach out to me directly if you want, my WhatsApp. What else? Oh, and we deliver. You can also order online at orderstart.com/Taba BBQ.
Yeah, because we use Taba quite a bit for catering for special events.
Yep.
Special clients on the boats.
Yep.
We're always coming down, and it's more than just meat too. Like, let's be honest. You guys got a pretty mean potato salad.
Yeah, we got full.
Macaroni
we have
and cheese.
Yeah, the mac and cheese is great. We've got some
like
great salads. We've got
Coleslaw for some
yeah.
of you that have the affinity for coleslaw. My
Yeah,
my
and
wife
we've got
likes the coleslaw.
and we've got some amazing starters. We're going to start having potato skin stuffed with brisket coming up soon.
what?
We do those Texas Twinkies,
You do?
bacon wrapped, cream cheese and brisket stuffed smoked jalapenos. Real good.
No big deal.
No big deal. But on that note, we actually do a lot of catering as well. So the original smoker is actually a trailer, which is just parked over there in the parking lot. And we've done several off-site caterings. So people that have villas, we've done a few at Flora Farms, independent houses, where we'll actually bring the trailer and smoker there and smoke some things on site. So we'll do things like wings, ribs, sausages, things like that right on site. So that's an area of the business that we're aiming to grow a bit. And I mean, lots of things are coming up in the future. We're looking at hopefully getting ourselves a brick and mortar space in San Jose as well. San Jose, Del Cabo, not California.
San Jose is growing, man.
It's a whole nother market.
I love it.
It's a
I love it out there.
whole separate market, and people from that side don't come out here.
No,
They really don't. They
Yeah,
really don't, so.
And on the inside, everyone knows why. Yeah, like it's just a
They're
different.
scared.
It's a different feel. And it's just a different
It is.
feel.
It's totally.
Yeah,
it's a totally different feel. The I mean,
I
it's
enjoy,
obviously.
I enjoy them both, and
Me too.
And there's I love eating in San Jose.
Oh yeah.
And
there's loads of great restaurant
yeah,
options.
So
There's a great market out there. There's lots of people that like to get out and enjoy unique, different types of meals and different types of foods. And so it really is a big part of our near future growth is to find a space out there and have something out there, because it's a whole part of the market that we're really missing out on. So yeah, as we grow this, we'll grow that, and then who knows, maybe we'll end up in La Paz, Todos Santos.
well,
Bit by bit.
there's a need for barbecue in every town in the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As people start to get to learn about barbecue, I mean, it's also a bit of a trend. There's a lot of shows on Netflix about it now. There's
Yeah.
different competitions. People are starting to really learn about barbecue, because it used to be a thing that was kind of isolated in the south of the U.S. and now it's really expanding. I mean, I follow a couple of profiles online that are in Dubai, and Qatar. So there's barbecue starting to get its reach around the world.
I bet that culturally is interesting.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
There's one called I think it's called Texas Bighorn Barbecue, I think is what it's called, and they do a lot of lamb. They do halal beef. They don't do any pork, obviously. So, but it's interesting watching them. But they keep their focus on that kind of Central Texas style. They're using an offset smoker. They stick to mainly kosher salt, black pepper with minimal extra seasonings, just like us. But they're on the other side of the world. So it's interesting,
Yeah. Well, everybody, thanks for spending time with us here again. Chris, always good to see you.
My pleasure.
Love this place. Obviously, like our businesses do a lot of business together.
Yes.
So it's just we're super grateful, for you to take the time with us.
As
And-
are we. These guys took us out on our whole staff out on an amazing boat trip for our posada, which is our Christmas party this year, and our staff had an amazing time. So
And I have my Christmas parties here, usually in July, because I'm
Yeah.
like Christmas in July
yeah,
kind of guy.
yeah, exactly.
So, but Chris, appreciate you, man. Appreciate the
I
time.
appreciate your time.
And whenever you in town, this is definitely a spot you want to hit. It's on our top recommended. As you can see, just always go to our website. You can see our top recommended places. and we'll talk to everyone soon.
See you soon.
Finger guns. I felt like when you said 624, we should throw up some gang signs. In the 624.
I don't know.
I never did.
There probably is one.
Yeah, there probably is something.